In the silence that follows every thought, there is a truth. It does not announce itself, nor does it seek our comfort. The truth is not a friend. It does not come bearing promises, nor does it offer any balm for the wounds of the will. Instead, it simply exists, unmoved, undisturbed by our striving, and all the more painful for that stillness. We search endlessly for meaning, for purpose, for a salve to soothe the gnawing ache of existence. But meaning, like everything else, is a mere mirage. It shifts and fades before our grasp, only to reappear tantalizingly at the edge of our sight as we run ever deeper into the desert of human experience. There is no escape from the truth. There is only the refusal to see it and the inevitable unraveling that follows. Our lives, so fiercely defended by the ego, are fragile things, held together by 1,000 fragile threads of illusion. We tell ourselves stories of purpose, of love, of success, and in these stories we find a fleeting solace, a brief respite from the gnawing emptiness. But all stories, like all dreams, fade with the dawn. The world does not ask for our consent. It does not care for our beliefs, our struggles, or our desires. The tides will rise and fall. The sun will scorch the earth. And all of us, in the end, will be reduced to dust. And yet, we continue, driven by a will that compels us to chase after shadows, to seek meaning in a world that offers none. This is the paradox of existence. We are born into suffering, and yet we cling desperately to the illusion that something, somewhere, can bring us peace. But peace is not a commodity to be obtained. It is a state that can only be realized when we relinquish our desperate need for it. In every corner of our lives, we seek to fill the void with distractions. We adorn ourselves with possessions, with relationships, with achievements, as though these things can protect us from the cold, uncaring truth of our mortality. But none of it matters. The endless accumulation of things, the constant striving for approval, the ceaseless chasing of pleasure, it all fades like mist in the morning light. We are left with nothing but our own inner silence, and the bitter realization that the whole of it was an illusion. What are we, really? The question that haunts us from the moment we can think. We are not the stories we tell about ourselves, not the roles we assume, not the identities we carve from the raw material of our lives. We are not the sum of our accomplishments, nor the fruits of our labor. We are only this, a fleeting breath in a world that does not ask for us. We come, we go, and in between we struggle. Struggle for what? For meaning? For purpose? Or simply for the illusion that we are not utterly alone, adrift in an indifferent universe? The more we seek, the further we are from what we desire. The deeper we look into the void, the more it looks back into us. There is no answer in the pursuit, no answer in the distractions we fill our days with. Only the ever-present reminder that we are trapped in this ceaseless motion, a motion that leads us nowhere. But even in the abyss, there is something, a stillness, a truth that remains. The suffering we endure is not meaningless. It is the only path to the truth of ourselves, to the understanding that we are not the sum of our desires, not the actors in the drama of life, but the silent witnesses to it all. And in that silence, there is a kind of release, not relief, but release. We cease to fight against what is. We cease to cling to what we cannot hold. And in that surrender, there is an awakening. We are born into this world with nothing, and we leave with nothing. All that we are, all that we hope to be, is a momentary flicker in the vast darkness of time. And yet, we fight for meaning, as though meaning could be found in the fleeting. But there is no meaning, only the unbroken cycle of birth and death, of desire and frustration, of striving and failing. And yet, we cannot help but seek. The will, that force within us, compels us to grasp, to understand, to find. But the more we reach, the further we are from what we seek. We are like children chasing butterflies in a field. The more we run, the more they elude us. And yet, in our pursuit, there is a strange beauty. It is the beauty of the struggle itself, of the recognition that the very act of seeking is a part of the torment. To cease seeking would be to die before our time. But what of the emptiness, the void that opens before us when we confront the truth? The emptiness is not an absence, it is the presence of all that is. The realization that we are not separate from the world, but woven into it, like a thread in the fabric of the universe. In this understanding, there is no distinction between the self and the world. There is no I to hold on to, only the silent witnessing of all that is. And yet, the ego cannot bear this truth. It fights against it, clings to the illusion of self, of meaning, of purpose. It builds walls around itself, creates stories to protect itself from the gnawing certainty that it is nothing, that it is a fleeting moment, a shadow in the light of eternity. But the walls will fall, the stories will unravel, and in that unraveling there will be a quiet, a stillness, a recognition of what has always been true, that we are not separate from the world, that we are the world itself, unfolding in a single, brief moment. The suffering we endure is not something to be escaped, but something to be understood. It is the crucible in which we are forged, the fire that purifies us. The pain is not a punishment, but a revelation that all of it, every moment, every breath, is fleeting, is impermanent, is nothing more than a passing wave upon the vast ocean of time. And in this recognition, there is peace, not the peace of the ego, but the peace of the soul, a peace that comes not from the absence of suffering, but from the acceptance of it. We do not need to find meaning in the world, for meaning does not exist. There is no grand design, no higher purpose that we are meant to fulfill. We are here simply because we are here. The world is not a stage for our drama, nor is it a playground for our desires. It simply is. And in this simplicity, there is a strange kind of beauty, not the beauty of illusion, but the beauty of truth. And so we continue, not in pursuit of some elusive goal, but simply because we are. We are not the dreamers of dreams, nor the seekers of meaning. We are the dream itself, the meaning that arises only in the moment that slips through our fingers, as all moments do. And yet, in that slipping, we are free. We are free from the tyranny of time, free from the chains of desire, free from the weight of our own expectations. This is the truth we seek, not in the world, not in the future, but in the acceptance of the present, the acceptance of what is, the acceptance of the suffering that is, not as something to be avoided, but as something to be embraced. For in the embrace of suffering, there is a release from the tyranny of the will, a surrender to the stillness that lies beyond all striving. And so the cycle continues, as it must. The will arises and the will fades. The suffering comes and the suffering passes. But through it all, there is the truth, the quiet truth that we are not separate from this world, but a part of it. And in this understanding, there is not peace, but a release from the need for peace, a release from the need for anything at all. We are born, we suffer, we die. And in the suffering, there is clarity, not the clarity of understanding, but the clarity of surrender. And in that surrender, we are free. What is suffering, if not the raw exposure of our nature? It is the rupture of illusion, the tearing down of the facades we so carefully construct to shield ourselves from the deeper truth of what we are. The world, in all its vast indifference, presses in upon us, and we, in our arrogance, attempt to rise above it, to bend it to our will. But the will itself, that very force which compels us to seek, to desire, to strive, is a force of disquiet, of turmoil, an endless churn that pushes us from one distraction to the next, never allowing us the stillness that we falsely believe would bring us peace. We are not the masters of our own desires. We are slaves to them, driven by impulses that surge through us with an intensity we can neither name nor control. Desire is the cruelest of all illusions, for it deceives us into thinking we are capable of fulfillment. We chase after the objects of our longing, the goals we have set before ourselves. But these are mere shadows, ever receding as we advance toward them. And yet, we cannot help but chase. We are driven by something within us, something that is not our own. And so we race toward what we believe will complete us, only to be met with emptiness, with dissatisfaction. This is the great deception, that we may find fulfillment, that we may find completion in the very world that has brought us into being. The world is but a mirror of our own desires, reflecting back to us what we have placed in it. We cling to the belief that fulfillment lies beyond ourselves, in the acquisition of something external, whether it be power, affection, or wealth. But these are fleeting, hollow things, ephemeral as smoke. Even in their moment of possession, they slip through our fingers, turning into nothing more than dust, leaving us yearning for what we once thought was ours. And yet, there is no shame in this. We are creatures of desire, and to desire is to be human, but it is the nature of our desires that must be understood. We are not the masters of them, as we so desperately wish to believe. They are the forces that shape us, that drive us forward, until we tire, until we come to the edge of the precipice and stand, finally, face to face with the truth, that there is no fulfillment in this world. There is no end to the pursuit of satisfaction. Desire is an endless hunger, a gnawing emptiness that will never be filled, no matter how many things we pile into its gaping maw. The more we strive, the more we suffer. The more we seek to escape the pain, the more it finds its way back to us, clothed in new forms, disguised in different faces. This is the nature of suffering. It is not an event, but a constant companion. It is woven into the very fabric of our existence. Every moment that we are alive in a world that does not care for us, that does not offer us reprieve. And yet, we persist. We persist in our endless striving, in our ceaseless attempts to escape the reality of our condition. But here is the strange truth. Suffering is not something to be defeated. It is not a battle to be won. It is not a punishment nor a mistake. It is simply what is. We cannot fight against it, for to fight against suffering is to fight against life itself. Suffering is the companion of existence. It is the price we pay for being, and in its embrace there is no escape, no release, no promise of a future where it will cease. So, we must ask ourselves, if suffering is inevitable, if it is the very essence of existence, what then is its meaning? Why do we suffer, if not to awaken us to the nature of our being? Why does the world press so hard against us, if not to show us that the will to live is itself the source of our torment? The very will to exist, to strive, to reach beyond ourselves, this is the source of all suffering. It is a force that keeps us moving, that compels us to seek, to want, to crave. And yet, it is in that seeking, in that wanting, that we are lost. We are not lost in the sense of being adrift, but lost in the illusion that there is somewhere to go, that there is something to be found. The world presents itself to us, endlessly, with promises of fulfillment, with offers of relief, but all of it is a mirage. It is not the world that deceives us, but our own minds, our own desires, that reach out and grasp at what is not there. We are like children, always reaching for something just beyond our grasp, always chasing after the fleeting moments that promise to fill the emptiness within us, but only deepen it. And so we turn in circles. We seek and we fail. We grasp and we let go. And all the while, the world remains indifferent. It moves on, unchanged, while we are lost in our futile chase. We are not the masters of our desires. We are their subjects. We are the playthings of a force that is beyond our comprehension, driven by a will that has no end, no purpose, and no direction. This is the great sorrow, that we cannot escape the very essence of what we are, that we are bound to the world, to the will, to the endless cycle of longing and disappointment. There is no release, there is no salvation. There is only the quiet recognition that the very pursuit of salvation is the cause of our torment. The will, in its ceaseless striving, leads us deeper into the labyrinth of suffering. And yet, to cease striving is to cease living, to cease being. We cannot withdraw from the world, for to do so would be to surrender our existence. In this way, suffering becomes a paradox. It is both our torment and our teacher. It shows us the nature of the world, and in doing so, it shows us the nature of ourselves. For it is only when we confront suffering, when we cease to run from it, that we begin to understand the truth that there is nothing beyond this. No purpose to our suffering, no grand design, no cosmic meaning that will save us. There is only the suffering itself and the quiet acceptance that this is all there is. It is this acceptance, this resignation to what is, that we resist above all. For we are creatures of hope, and hope, like desire, is a double-edged sword. We hope not because we know, but because we cannot bear to know. We reach out as though some distant promise of happiness, some fulfillment, awaits us just beyond the horizon. But the horizon is forever shifting, forever receding. Every step we take toward it only makes it more distant, and so we continue to chase, to hope, to believe in something that is not there. In this chase, in this unrelenting pursuit, we are forever bound to the wheel of suffering, and yet it is the very wheel that gives shape to our existence. We speak of suffering as though it is something we can transcend, something we can escape, but this is a lie we tell ourselves. We are not here to transcend, to escape, to find peace. No, we are here to experience not joy, not pleasure, not fulfillment, but the full breadth of what it means to be alive. To be alive is to suffer, and to suffer is to live. There is no escape from this truth, and in attempting to escape it, we only deepen our bondage. For the very act of fleeing from suffering is an act of resistance to life itself. It is a refusal to accept the world as it is, a rejection of what is essential to our existence. We cannot outrun the truth, no matter how far we run. It is only when we cease to resist, when we cease to cling to the belief that something outside of us will save us, that we come to understand the stillness that lies beneath the tumult. This stillness is not the absence of suffering, but the acceptance of it. It is the recognition that suffering is not a temporary affliction, but a constant state of being. It is the state in which we are born, and it is the state in which we die. We are not born into happiness, into joy, into peace. We are born into struggle, into conflict, into the ever-present tension between desire and reality. This is the truth of our condition, and to deny it is to deny life itself. The suffering we experience is not a punishment, nor is it a flaw in the design of the world. It is the world, it is life, unfolding as it always has, without meaning, without purpose, without end. We cannot make sense of it, because there is no sense to be made. The world does not exist for us. It does not exist to serve our needs or desires. It is simply what it is. We are but a brief flicker in the great span of time, and in the face of eternity, our lives are no more significant than the passing of a shadow across the ground. Yet, in this transience, in this insignificance, there is a strange kind of beauty, not the beauty of illusion, but the beauty of truth. For it is only in recognizing our own insignificance, our own fleeting nature, that we can begin to understand the world as it truly is. We are not separate from the world, we are not above it, we are part of it, inseparable from the very forces that shape it. And in this realization, there is a quiet surrender, not a surrender to despair, but a surrender to the truth. We are not in control. We cannot master the world. We cannot master ourselves. All we can do is live within the flow of it, without resistance, without hope, without desire. The will that drives us, that compels us to seek, to strive, to achieve, is a force that originates not in us, but in the world itself. It is the driving force of existence, the pulse of life, and it moves through us as it moves through everything. It is not our will, but the will of the world, and we are but its instruments. And yet, we believe that we are the masters of this will, that we can control it, direct it, bend it to our desires. But we are not its masters, we are its slaves. And in our slavery, we suffer. We suffer because we refuse to acknowledge the truth that the will to live is the very thing that causes our torment. We believe that if we can satisfy our desires, if we can achieve our goals, if we can find fulfillment, then we will be free. But fulfillment is a lie. There is no end to desire, no final satisfaction. The will is an endless hunger, a void that cannot be filled. And so we continue to chase. We chase after things that cannot satisfy us, things that we cannot hold. We build our lives around illusions, around promises that cannot be kept. And when these promises fade, as they inevitably do, we are left with nothing but the aching emptiness that remains. We have been chasing shadows all along, and now that the shadows have passed, we are left in the darkness. The darkness is not something to fear, but something to understand. It is the reality of existence, the place where all illusions dissolve, where all desires fade. And in this darkness, there is no comfort, no peace, no salvation. There is only the recognition that what we have been chasing was never real. To live is to suffer, and yet, in this suffering, there is a strange form of liberation. Not liberation in the sense of escaping suffering, but liberation from the illusion that there is something outside of suffering that will bring us peace. Peace is not something to be attained. It is something that arises when we cease to resist the flow of life, when we stop trying to shape the world to fit our desires. Peace is the quiet recognition that life is as it is, and that our striving, our wanting, our reaching only distances us from the truth. There is no peace to be found in the world, because the world is not made for our peace. The world is made for our suffering. It is in the embrace of suffering, in the surrender to it, that we find what we have been seeking all along, not peace, but truth. We do not find truth in happiness, nor in fulfillment. We find truth in the emptiness, in the silence that remains when all desires are stripped away. It is in this silence that we come face to face with the nature of our existence. It is here, in the quiet, that we begin to understand that the will, the striving, the desire to be is the very source of our torment. To cease desiring is not to cease living. It is to live in harmony with the world as it is, without the need for something more. And so we return to the question, what is the purpose of life? The purpose is not to find happiness, nor to avoid suffering. The purpose is to see the world as it is, to witness the dance of existence without the illusion that we are separate from it, that we are above it, that we can control it. There is no higher purpose than this, no greater meaning than the acceptance of what is. In this acceptance, there is no triumph, there is no victory to be won. There is only the quiet surrender to the truth that suffering is not to be escaped, but embraced. That desire is not to be fulfilled, but understood. That life, in all its fleeting agony, is not something to be endured, but lived in its totality, without resistance, without hope, without the need for meaning. Life simply is, and in that is enough. And so we come to the end, though there is no end. There is no finality to the process of living, for to live is to be in a constant state of becoming, of yearning, of reaching, only to fall back into the same eternal space of wanting. We imagine that at some point, in some distant moment, the suffering will cease, that the longing will be fulfilled, that the restless will find rest. But it is the very nature of the will to be restless, to forever seek, to forever stretch its hands towards something just beyond its grasp. It is not a force to be quenched, but a force to be understood in its infinite futility, in its infinite sorrow. We are born into this world, and we die in it. And between these two inevitable bookends, we struggle, we strive, we reach towards something that we can never hold. Every breath we take, every step we make, is a dance between life and death, a tenuous balance between desire and its unfulfillment. We are caught in the current of time, swept along in the relentless tide, and yet we do not see this. We hold on, grasping at what we believe will bring us peace, as though there were something, anything, that could free us from the tyranny of our own existence. But freedom is an illusion. There is no escape from the world, no escape from ourselves. We cannot transcend the pain that is our constant companion. We cannot flee from the suffering that is built into the very essence of our being. And so we are left with this, not with a solution, not with an answer, but with the quiet recognition that there is nothing to solve, nothing to change. The world is as it is, and we are as we are. And in this recognition, there is no triumph, no relief, but a deep, quiet surrender to the truth. The truth is simple. It is not complicated by the mind's desire for meaning, for purpose, for explanation. It is not something that can be understood by reason, nor grasped by will. It is simply this: we are here, and then we are gone. The world does not need us. We are but brief visitors, passing through a space that has no regard for us, no need for us, no purpose for us. And in this recognition, there is a certain peace. Not the peace of fulfillment, but the peace of acceptance. The peace that comes when we cease to fight, when we stop believing that we can make the world fit our desires. The peace that comes when we understand in the depth of our being that we are not separate from the world, but part of it, fleeting, transient, and yet, in our fleetingness, perfect. There is no higher purpose, no greater meaning than this: to simply be, to simply exist, to live and to suffer, and in that suffering, to find the truth of what we are. We are not the sum of our desires. We are not the things we achieve, the possessions we acquire, the relationships we form. We are not the stories we tell about ourselves. We are simply the breath that rises and falls, the fleeting moment that stretches across time. And in this moment, there is nothing to hold on to, nothing to strive for. There is only what is. The will to live, the will to be, is not something to be mastered, but something to be understood. It is not something to be overcome, but something to be accepted in all its futility. For in the acceptance of this futility, in the surrender to the unrelenting flow of time and desire, we come to understand the world as it truly is not a place to find happiness, not a place to find peace, but a place to witness, to experience, to be. And in this witnessing, in this quiet recognition of our own impermanence, there is a kind of release, not from suffering, but in suffering, a release from the need for meaning, a release from the desire to escape, a release into the vast silence that surrounds us, that envelops us. The suffering we endure is not a punishment, nor a mistake. It is the very fabric of our existence. It is the thread that binds us to the world, to time, to each other. And it is in this suffering, not despite it, but because of it, that we come to know the truth of ourselves. We are not the masters of our will, we are its vessels. We are not the creators of our desires, we are their instruments. And in this recognition, there is no fear, no regret, no longing. There is only the truth, the clarity that comes when we surrender, not to the world, but to the reality of our own being. And in this surrender, we cease to fight, we cease to seek, we cease to want. For in the end, there is nothing left to desire, there is nothing left to find. There is only what is. And in that stillness, there is everything, and there is nothing.